Well, we'd like just to share with you some amazing miracles that's happened to us recently. This typifies God's just hand in doing and going before us and making every crooked path straight. We all know that the Word says that He's prepared a place for us, and His grace is there for us. And even though we may make mistakes that
Thank you, Jesus.
we don't even know about, and this whole story came about from the willingness and I suppose the exuberance on our part to come to the United States last summer, not knowing that we had overstayed a visa on my part, and trying to re-enter again into the United States this Christmas. We soon discovered that the visa that I had travelled on was revoked at the airport. So what started off to be an exciting travel experience turned into desperation and anxiety and stress started to creep in until myself and Cynthia had to revert back to the Word and stand on the Word. And so what we saw was transpire in the airport in Dublin, and when a customs official stopped me from entering onto a plane to come to the United States, and it became a huge disappointment in knowing, because of the words that he was using was, "You will not get into the United States this Christmas."
It could be 3 to 6 months and could take a long time.
Yeah, so it was like initially those words of not going and you're not going to see your family this Christmas was disappointment in us. So we had to rise above that. When Cynthia came towards the end of that conversation with the officials and they saw her disappointment, there was on her part, I suppose, when she explained to them, when she expressed her gratitude to the customs officials, in their efforts to help us, it sort of did something in the officials' demeanor and heart, and I believe that was the doorway for the subsequent miracles that happened over the following days to occur. We immediately went to the U.S. Embassy to apply for a visa, and when we got there, the U.S. Embassy official was so amazed that there was nobody else there that day, and something that we were told that could take 6 months, he actually approved it that day. And we sent out like a lot of prayer requests, and we really seen God's hand move,
Thank you, Jesus.
that day, and it took 48 hours for us to actually get the visa approved, and then to pick up the visa and go to the airport, and subsequently it was a 10-year multiple entry visa, and it really was an expression of God's grace that He
Yes,
really
thank you,
accelerated something, for us, that far exceeded the visa that we were traveling on. And that's what God does, it really supersedes and goes before us and makes every crooked path straight and gives us better than what we thought we were going to get. When we went back to the airport the following, the 2 days later to actually fly out, the customs officials who had stopped us came running over with bottles of water, personally giving us their names so that we will never have to go through that again. And if we ever came up with any complications, we were to use this superintendent's name, and it was just the favor of God upon that. So that was part one of the miracle in coming to America this Christmas, and we've seen God's hand move in all that, and I believe the way that we were able to just to show gratitude at the very start. I believe that something happened in that customs official's heart, that God moved in his heart, and therefore God was moving in our part as well, and it was just such a miracle in part one. So I know Cynthia has part two of that story.
Well, we learned a big lesson. It's about how we are either going to react to a situation when it comes at you. Are you going to react, or are you going to respond with love and peace and joy? And so we had to choose to react, to respond. I did react with tears. I reacted with a lot of tears, but then I responded with gratefulness and gratitude. And we told the customs officials how grateful we were and what a great job they were doing and how thankful we were. And so, the next part of the story is we got on the plane and we're heading to Chicago, and we had paid for some exit row seats on our original flight. So since we got moved to this new flight, we weren't going to get our exit row seats. And so we just talked to the stewardess and we said, if there's anything opening up, can you get us some seats with a little more leg room? We're both, 7 foot tall. Not really, but we're both really tall. And so we were just looking forward to having a little more space if possible. And we noticed that there was some seats behind us that were open. And so Mark asked the stewardess if we could possibly move back. And so she said, yes, once we get up to the, where the pilot says we can unbuckle our seatbelts, then she was going to move us back. And so what happened was when she said, okay, it's time for you to move back, she moved us back, but there was a family in front of us that had been separated because there was someone sitting in the middle of the family and they were trying to pass the baby back and forth. And so that man was able to take our seat, and then the family was able to be rightly positioned. So the family was sitting comfortably. The single man moved back and had our seats. He was sitting comfortably. And then we were moving back to our own seats with lots of space. And what happened when we walked back there was a precious lady that peeped up behind the seats and said, excuse me, did you pay for these seats? And so we said, oh, well, the stewardess, moved us back here. And she's gonna let us sit here. And she said, well, this is my stuff, and I was gonna move up here. And so we said, okay, well, the stewardess is moving us back here. So Mark and I kind of just responded by deferring it to the stewardess to talk to this woman. And we sat down in our seats and tried to enjoy. But, there was a very big temptation to respond to this lady behind me, that she was so angry that we sat there. She didn't want us to sit there. In fact, she put her feet up between the seats, and her feet were resting on my arm. So I had to say, excuse me, but your feet are touching my arm. Could you move? And then she mouthed off a little bit more. So I said, excuse me, your feet are on my arm. Because you know what? I couldn't let that intimidation I couldn't respond to that intimidation. I couldn't react to that intimidation. It wasn't her personally. It was something behind her that was angry in her and wanting me to react and get in strife with her. And so I had to choose not to react in strife, but to respond in love. And that was a big lesson. So responding in love to her, just basically, the Lord spoke to me that when we take our prepared place, when we sit in the seat that He has prepared for us, the enemy always hates it. The enemy always tries to fight us, sitting in the seat and sitting in that prepared place that God has for us. But you know what? The enemy might hate it, but he can't stop us from sitting in the place that God has prepared for us. Yeah. And so we sat there, and we were going to watch our movie, and we were going to enjoy the flight. And I said, you know what? I have to go back and talk to the flight attendant. I just didn't have peace yet. So I went to the back of the plane and I talked to the flight attendant. I said, we just want to say thank you so much for allowing us to sit in that seat, because you didn't know, but we had actually paid for exit row seats. We got a new flight. We didn't get our exit row seats, but it means so much to us. I said, thank you so much for letting us sit there. And I want to fill out a form to say you guys did a great job, that we love your airline. And she said, that means so much to me. Thank you so much. And so it really blessed that stewardess's heart too, because she had been the brunt of a lot of anger from the other woman. So we were just grateful. And when we expressed that gratefulness and that gratitude, the whole atmosphere in the plane just shifted. And we were able to enjoy ourselves. And really, there was a peace in the stewardess. Peace did come over the woman behind us, and the whole atmosphere shifted. So we just, want to encourage you to respond and react with love in Jesus' name.